The Man from Tord, sometimes referred to as the Tord Mystery or the Man Without a Country, is a story about a man who arrives at a Japanese airport from a country called Tord. Many people have claimed this story to be true, so the crux of the problem pertains to Tord. One would notice that there is no country by the name of Tord, either today or during the purported period of time when the incident took place, that is the 1950s. The story ends with the man disappearing forever a day after arriving in Japan. Moreover, all of his personal documents, such as his passport and driver's license, also conveniently disappeared, thus making this strange story unsolvable. The man's arrival. The story of the Man from Tord begins quite specifically in many sources with a hot day in July 1954. On that particular day, a man was said to have arrived at Haneda Airport, known also as Tokyo International Airport. This man has been described as Caucasian-looking with a beard. Whilst his primary language is said to have been French, it has been purported that he spoke Japanese and many other languages as well. So far, there is nothing extraordinary to note. The sequence of events then differs according to which version of the story one encounters. In one version, this man hands over his passport to be stamped, and the Japanese immigration officer notices something strange. Whilst the passport looked authentic, the country where it was issued, Tord, was recognized as non-existent, either by the officer or one of her colleagues, indicating that the man should be taken away for interrogation. In another version, the man mentioned that he was from Tord, and when the immigration officer did not believe him, he showed him his passport. Time travel from ancient mythology to modern science. Location of Tord. The next part of the story details the man trying to convince the immigration officers that Tord does indeed exist. According to the traveler, Tord was located between France and Spain, and had by then been in existence for 1,000. When shown a map, the man pointed to the area occupied by the Principality of Andorra, and was puzzled as to why his country was called Andorra on the map. Both sides refused to give in. The Japanese officers insisted that Tord did not exist, and the traveler argued otherwise. Vanished. Eventually, the man was held by the officers, as they were suspicious that he might be some kind of criminal. They brought him to a nearby hotel for the night, whilst they conducted their investigation. To ensure that the man did not escape during the night, 2 guards were placed outside his room. The next morning, when the officers went to the man's room, they realized that he had simply vanished, as there were no signs of his escape. Additionally, all of his personal documents, which may serve as evidence for the story's validity, had apparently disappeared as well. Ancient Coptic text revealed to be divination tool for predicting the future. Iranian scientist builds machine that can predict the future. Travel through time or space? Or just an exaggeration? One of the most notable explanations for this incident is that the man from Tord had somehow passed through a parallel dimension by accident, and ended up at Haneda Airport. It has been suggested that, based on this explanation, there is a parallel Earth, which is similar to ours with the exception that the locations called Andorra here is known as Tord over there. Another suggestion is that the man was a time traveler from the future, though this interpretation is arguably more problematic than the one supposing interdimensional travel. Going to a different dimension. It has also been suggested that an incident like that did indeed happen, though perhaps much less sensational. This more mundane story could have been embellished each time it was told, so much so that it eventually evolved into the great mystery that it is known as today. Finally, it is also entirely possible that this story is merely an urban legend. the story of the man from Tord might not have even occurred in the first place, and may have just been the creation of someone's imagination. Quantum mechanics, though firmly tested, is so weird and anti-intuitive, that famed physicist Richard Feynman once remarked, "I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics." Attempts to explain some of the bizarre consequences of quantum theory have led to some mind-bending ideas, such as the Copenhagen interpretation and the many worlds interpretation. Now there's a new theory on the block, called the Many Interacting Worlds Hypothesis (MIW), and the idea is just as profound as it sounds. The theory suggests not only that parallel worlds exist, but that they interact with our world on the quantum level and are thus detectable. Though still speculative, the theory may help to finally explain some of the bizarre consequences inherent in quantum mechanics, reports RT.com. The theory is a spin-off of the many worlds interpretation in quantum mechanics, an idea that posits that all possible alternative histories and futures are real, each representing an actual, though parallel, world. One problem with the many worlds interpretation, however, has been that it is fundamentally untestable, since observations can only be made in our world. Happenings in these proposed parallel worlds can thus only be imagined. MIW, however, says otherwise. It suggests that parallel worlds can interact on the quantum level,